everybody. My name is Kealy Spring. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in the state of California. And today with me, I have Vanessa Tate, who I just had a quick chat with, and we realized we have met before, although I hadn't thought we had met prior to this. We used to have offices that were next door to each other before her journey took her a little different path than that office space. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Vanessa to introduce yourself, Vanessa, your niches, kind of where you're at, the type of clients that you see.
hmm Yeah, so I have an office here in Denver proper, Colorado, and I hold two licenses now, one in Colorado and my original license in California. So I work with clients in both places, virtually California, in person, and also sometimes virtually in Colorado. I work with adults and couples, and my former training is in somatic psychotherapy, so no matter if I'm working with individuals or couples, I incorporate acknowledging the wisdom and the intuition and the nuances of the physical body and the connection to the mind, just how trauma, emotions, our nervous system all factor in to what's going on individually and in a couple systemically. Um, yeah, that probably covers it in a nutshell.
Mhm. And Vanessa, would you share with the audience how you started? How did you kind of get to this path
hmm
of wanting to pursue this and go the path that you did?
Yeah, it's a good question. So originally, I thought I was going to be a political correspondent and pursued journalism, and then worked in DC and realized I didn't enjoy that, and then fell into advertising and worked on the creative end as an art director, creative director. And then at age 21, um, got introduced to yoga and meditation, and that kind of set me on a journey of um, self-study and also fascinated with the body and the stories I would see in bodies. And I fell into teaching yoga kind of by accident. And all of this kind of coincided with me looking at graduate schools for probably 6 years. And I knew I wanted to do something that was more in the healing arts, and finally honed in on a few programs around the country and ended up in the somatic psychotherapy program at the California Institute for Integral Studies, and then just dove into, you know, what does somatic psychotherapy mean? Also at that school, just kind of by the nature of the school, you get introduced to transpersonal psychology. So not only exploring these physical, like three-dimensional bodies that we're in and how trauma is stored in them, but also transpersonally, how do we even interact and engage with the interconnectedness of all things? Kind of like spiritual realms and different levels of consciousness. Um, so yeah, that was many years ago, but it was really an amazing, pivotal experience and continues to be. hmm
And Vanessa, it hadn't come up in what you just shared, but I know you had mentioned to me previously, you also teach.
Yeah, yeah. So I taught a little bit while still in California, and then moving to Colorado offered more opportunities. So I first began teaching at UC Denver in their graduate program. I've also taught at Regis University here in the graduate programs for marriage and family therapy. And I currently teach at Naropa University in the undergraduate program. So classes like personality theories, exploring dream psychology, transpersonal psychology, and most of these classes are in person. Sometimes I teach online a course called Learning from Trauma. hmm
And transpersonal hasn't come up before, somatic somewhat, and I think you gave a good
hmm
explanation of both. That said, how does that look like in a session? If somebody was, coming to you to kind of discuss those topics, what would that look like?
Yeah, and sometimes they can include both. People that know what somatics is might seek me out because they have heard about the vagus nerve or their automatic nervous system, and they're curious about their tendencies to go into fight, flee, freeze, or even the newer coined one, fawning. So there's various things I help a person do to explore that, which might be,
Could you explain fawning? I haven't heard
oh
that term.
yeah, yeah, fawning is basically synonymous with people pleasing.
Ah,
So maybe feeling activation and a threat in an interaction with somebody, and you find yourself resorting to acquiescing, to accommodating, to people pleasing, kind of abandoning yourself to be in the safety of the situation. And so there's various techniques that I use. It can be as simple as helping a person track and notice their physical body sensations, nuances while in session. Sometimes it's led meditation. I'm also trained in something called touch skills for trauma therapists. That includes something called co-regulation and resilience, just really helping a person start to slow down and learn about their activation in their body when in relationship to somebody that they love, family members, coworkers, strangers on the street. And once you can track and understand those nuances about your body, if you're getting hijacked from them, like all those states are normal to some degree, but if you're starting to realize you get hijacked in those places, there might be ways that we can start to navigate changing those over time and implementing new patterns. And then transpersonal psychology, um, that's newer to the field of psychology that came about in the 60s, largely on the West Coast in California. But that's the incorporation of different states of consciousness, which people often associate with the new, all the rage of using psychedelics and ketamine and all these things in sessions. It does not have to include medicine journeys like that. It can be near death experiences, hypnotic experiences, somatic experiences, um, sexual tantric experiences. Any of these things are experiences in nature that cause a person to feel an interconnectedness with all beings and all things. And once maybe they've had one of those like rocketing experiences, where do they go to safely talk about it and integrate it? And the average therapist trained at more traditional schools might not have adequate training to incorporate those things. And, many decades ago in traditional therapy, things like religion, spirituality, altered states of consciousness would not have been spoken about. And more now, they're getting allowed and incorporated into mainstream psychology.
yeah. I've definitely been seeing a lot more of the trainings around psychedelics, ketamine
Mm-hmm.
influence, especially here in the Bay Area where I am. It's there's a general understanding and push now to kind of have these options for people because it is powerful from my understanding too, especially with a lot of trauma that you mentioned or
Yeah.
some of these bigger life questions, bigger kind of
Mm-hmm.
exploration.
Yeah. And just like anything, there's people doing it really well, and then there's people maybe not doing it well with the appropriate certifications and homework and, you know, self-exposure and experiences with it. So,
Sure.
hmm
Yeah, and just to kind of point out, I really resonated. I do practice somatically as we had chatted before
hmm
we were chatting here. And there is so much more information in the body. And I think you were
hmm
speaking to that really well, is the more that somebody tunes into the body and what's going on, the more
hmm
information they have about, maybe other emotional states or, how that informs kind of who we
hmm
are holistically. And people
hmm
I find a lot of times like to kind of put that aside. That's a different thing than, and integrating it as
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think as kids at a certain age, depending on the family, the culture, the community you grew up in, you're kind of taught to start to disobey your body or to ignore it. And a lot of people move through the world, cognitively, cerebrally, and learn to ignore the natural information and intuition coming from their bodies. So, for some people, it's quite a journey to come back to that. Um, so yeah, I think it's, for me, the mind and the body are absolutely, in a figure eight with each other. constantly in connection. One informs the other.
Sure,
Hmm.
sure. So kind of a side note, what do you enjoy about the work that you do? What do you enjoy about being a therapist?
Hmm. I enjoy being of service, I think is what always comes up for me. I love being of service to help this person who's across from me better understand themselves and come into more of their authentic self and to start to acknowledge the patterns that maybe they've been stuck in or have hijacked them and help them move into more like authentic, balanced ease of living, better understanding themselves, better understanding how they navigate the world, and ultimately coming just into their more authentic self and helping that process, seeing the light bulbs go off, seeing the change in their physical bodies, in their psyches. I mean, that's so fulfilling to me. And all the while, I'm aware, I'm not the savior, I'm not the fixer. I'm helping a person walk along the path. And I think the innate healing and wisdom is already inside of them. I just help shed light on it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I love how you frame that. That's quite beautiful framing. I always think
Mhm.
the person is the expert on them. We're here to guide them on the journey,
Mhm. Mhm.
access
Yeah.
that strength, that wisdom, as you were saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, so next question. Well, we talked about those, kind of incorporated a couple things there. Is there anything that still surprises you about therapy? I get surprised
Oh
sometimes.
gosh, so many things. So many things. Let's see, what could I just focus on? I guess I'm still kind of surprised that some people come to therapy and don't know how to just lay it all out on the line. Like,
Yeah.
clearly, you are coming to therapy. Granted, there's trust issues, there's trauma, there's relational trauma, there's attachment issues, but um, I just really wish, and it takes time, people could show up and feel safe and just like, this is your time. This is the spot. Like the good, the bad, the ugly, the shadow, the persona, the art, like just we're here to do this. And I love when people are able to just show up with all of that. I mean, life is messy. Being human is messy. I mean, at the end of the day, still, like, do any of us really know why we're here? That is the most uncomfortable question ever, right? So, like, don't waste any time. Might as well just dive in. But the people that show up and I realize are withholding or lying or being dishonest is always perplexing to me. Now, there's always spots of ourselves that are parts that are exiled or parts that are so far in the shadows that we're blind to, totally unaware of or in denial. That's a little bit different. But yeah, just showing up with all of your stuff, I think, is the most beautiful process ever. And those that don't are always kind of like, well, why bother? What are we doing here? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can
Mhm.
resonate with that. I'm always surprised. This came up with somebody else I had spoken with as well, that that later in the time when you've been working with somebody for a while and then they say something like, "Oh, I haven't told you that I've been depressed and suicidal," and you're like, "Wait, what?
Right.
Why are we not telling? This is what I'm here
Yeah.
for. This is
Yeah.
exactly it. This is the work, right?" So
Hmm.
it can be.
Hmm.
I hear you. It can be really surprising in those moments of yeah.
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 Hmm.
And I think there's it's a trust, at least for me. I sometimes think it's like a trust thing. It's about kind of how much they can trust that you're there non-judgmentally
Yeah.
being provide
Well,
that.
yeah. So that reminds me of something else that is a surprise sometimes. That people think therapists have had charmed childhoods and upbringings and have never experienced anything traumatic in their lives, and they were just built to become these like perfect life experiences, advice givers, which is, to varying degrees, very far from the truth. I mean, typically therapists have been called to this because they've done their own work at their own process. And the best therapists, I think, have really dove into their own work and are continuously learning and identifying their own blind spots and weaknesses and continuing to evolve and transform themselves.
Mhm. Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, I sometimes will hear from somebody who, maybe saw a former or a different therapist or whatever. And sometimes it'll come out and I'll think like, oh, yeah, that therapist just hasn't done their work. And that was coming out in the session, right? So
Yeah.
it can be kind of go both ways, right? Is like there's this expectation put on us, and then
Yeah.
we have to kind of meet the moment and try to make sure that we are processed in our own stuff so we aren't bringing that into this.
Yeah. Consultation groups, our own therapy. I mean, it is honestly baffling to me that some traditional schools, some states don't require therapists to have done their own therapy to become licensed. I mean, to me, that's the most outlandish liability issue you could ever think of. I mean, would you ever, I always say to my students, because I also supervise, would you go to a dentist who's never had their teeth cleaned? I hope not, right?
For sure.
It
For
seems
sure.
preposterous. So, yeah. Hmm.
Yep. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, okay, so to that end, and maybe this is part of kind of what we were just talking about, but what do you hope people understood or knew about, what do you wish they knew or understood about therapy and the kind of therapy process journey?
That, I mean, sometimes you get what you pay for. So, really looking at a therapist and their experience and where they went to school and what are their specialties, and just really have a few conversations. You know, do some consultations, some brief introductory meetings with some therapists, because even though we're all trained in these amazing things, and some people really rely on the trainings that they put after their name, um, at the end of the day, feeling a resonance with the person, feeling comfortable, feeling safe, feeling seen, heard, understood, dare I say, even feeling a sense of cared for and loved,
Mhm.
goes beyond any training or fancy tools and tips and whatever that we could come with. You know, just that human to human, soul to soul, like, I got you, is so important.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I do think it can take a little time to find the right fit for people, and it can be
Yeah.
discouraging and it can be frustrating and all the things,
Hmm.
I feel very strongly about this as well, that it is about figuring out what resonates for you. What is that? What are you looking
Hmm.
for to get out of it? Is that person, able to meet you in that space, and you feel comfortable
Hmm.
through our, previous part of this conversation about trust. Can
Hmm.
you trust them? Can you know,
Yeah.
feel like you can share those deep, dark things in a space that feels, comfortable,
Hmm.
confident.
Hmm. Yeah. Hugely important.
Very important.
Hmm.
Okay, so final question in kind of this area is, do you have a favorite tool or a favorite thing you like to share that we could share with the audience here, just as kind of a takeaway that they might be able to
Hmm.
access or use?
Yeah, I think walking people through, it's sort of a guided meditation, but it can be dialectic. It's helping a person learn to track their physical bodies, right? From top to toe. And in that tracking, starting to identify, what does fight feel like in your body? And like thinking of examples and trying to find that in your body. What does freeze feel like? What does flee feel like? And what does fawn? Not everybody fawns, but the people that do. What does fawning feel like in your body? And then a last one is, we definitely need to establish what feels like homeostasis. Ventral vagal, like, oh, I'm calm to my best ability. I can be social, I can be engaged in the world, and starting to feel and identify those in their body just in the session, so that when they are out in the world, they can start to get more knowledgeable, incorporating the wisdom of their body And when we know what's going on, then there might be things that they can start to incorporate. If they get hijacked too much in that place, to start to learn to self-soothe, to just come a little bit easing back from that place they've been hijacked to, whether it be fight, flight, freeze, or fawning. And maybe that, this takes practice. Maybe they can't do it in the moment, but with repetition, we start to build upon that, to increase the tolerance for being able to do that. And as humans, we are mammals. We are meant to do all of those. Maybe fawning, has its place, but all of those things are absolutely necessary. But it's when people spend too much time in their lives in those states where it becomes debilitating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if somebody, for example, was trying to notice when they have a fight response, what are some cues that you see kind of come up that they might dial into in the body? Is it like rapid heart rate, clenched jaw? That's kind of where my mind's going.
Sweating, clenched jaw, making fists, literally wanting to punch someone, wanting to scream, wanting like their blood boiling. Hmm. Yeah, like it's a very primal animal
Mm-hmm.
instinct.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And what about for the kind of freeze response? Because I think sometimes that one gets, at least in my experience, people don't understand why they might freeze. It is a very natural response, but if somebody who's trauma, has a trauma experience, they freeze. What might some markers of freezing be?
Yeah, freeze can look somewhat a few different ways. For some people, it just looks like shutdown. For some, it's like they're physically there, but they clearly start to like withdraw, or their energy like literally starts to pull backwards. They might start to go numb, dissociate, right? For some people, their extremities will start to get cold, cold toes and hands. Um, Digestion tends to stop, so it's quite literally a freeze. Maybe their mind goes blank, they can't think of words. To a severe degree, they literally can't get words out their mouth. Their mind is totally blank, like the prefrontal cortex goes offline.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And then let's just, since we've done the two, what about for flight?
Yeah, that's like clearly let's get the shit out of here. Like run, run, like the impulse, like they even like might have to grip, or like they will literally like feel the urge to leave the room, or might leave the room. Like, I can't talk about this, I gotta leave. Um, and again, that's a natural impulse in certain situations, but it is quite literally the psoas muscles in your hips and thighs. Once they activate, they fire, and the impulse is to run, to take off. Yeah. And, some people will, and that's kind of an undeniable feeling in the body.
Mhm.
And whether a person actually does flee, those muscles in the body still fire. And then that energy gets like pent up, and then there's like really tight muscles that become weak.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah. And what about if somebody was doing fawn? How would they know?
Yeah, I think that tends to have like blushing in the cheeks. Um, there's a youngness to it, something that feels young. Um, for some people, it almost feels a little bit flirty. It's kind of young, blushing, head tilt, like sweetness to the voice, like saying the right things. Yeah, it's deceiving because there's kind of a sweetness to it. It's de-escalating, it's people pleasing, it's a little bit young, it's almost a little bit flirty because it feels kind of sweet. It's just saying all the right things to de-escalate something. Hmm.
Very interesting. Well, thank you so
Hmm.
much, Vanessa. I appreciate the kind of explanations and kind of going down that path with me because I think that will be helpful for people.
Hmm. Yeah,
That said, are you ready for a little bit more personal questions, kind of a getting to know you
sure. I'm game.
game? Great. It's first question then. Let's just dive right in. What is something that's making you happy right now?
Mm, what is making me happy? Um, I really enjoy teaching. Teaching at a university and undergraduate students that are pursuing psychology. It keeps my mind fresh. It keeps me, um, I don't want to say it keeps me young, but it at least like keeps me in touch with the younger generations and staying curious about them rather than offended by them, although that happens once in a while. But yeah, it just keeps me curious and learning, and it's inspiring. I'm inspired by them, and I also inspire back. Like there's a mutual kind of inspiration that goes on. Um, and it also inspires my work with clients, just to help me think about things in different ways. Yeah, because being in private practice can be quite isolating, right? And if you don't know how to kind of clear your energy and not take everything on from your clients, um, yeah, it can be a lot. So engaging in teaching can be really fun and interesting for me lately. Plus, like there's more sunshine out, so that always helps.
Fair
Hmm.
answer. Okay. Second question. What's your favorite app? Doesn't have to be therapy related, but what's your favorite app?
Um, I am learning German on Duolingo. Um, I started this a while back because I had a friend who was German and I challenged myself to learn German. And then I learned that it keeps a streak, like how many days of a streak can you use it? I'm a little bit competitive, so I have like a 580-day streak of learning German. Am I fluent in German? Absolutely not. But um, I'm not one to play video games or
Mhm.
games that are apps on the phone. I'm a person that is very productive and industrious in the Hakomi terms. So I like to be learning. If I'm going to do like, fluff time, I still need to be learning. So Duolingo is one of my favorite apps. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. That's quite the
Hmm.
streak too.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Beach or mountains? I know you're in
Oh gosh.
Colorado, but
Um, Probably beach.
okay.
Yeah, the mountains are really beautiful. There's something grounding about them. I'm not a winter sports person, although the snow is beautiful. Um, there's nothing like the sound and crash of the waves. So I'm not necessarily a lay on the beach person either. However, just the energy, the magnetic qualities of the ocean waves, is pretty mesmerizing. It's pretty special. Yeah, so I do miss that. Hmm.
I lived in both places. You've also lived. We were just talking about the Bay Area, and
Hmm.
I live a couple blocks from the beach, so I can validate that. Yes, the soothing sound, especially at night,
Hmm.
quiet down, and you're
Yeah,
crashing is super soothing.
yeah,
What I at least when I lived in Colorado, one of the things I loved about the snow is it's beautiful, but they actually get a lot of sun in Colorado, so it melts
yeah,
the snow. So you do end up being able to kind of get outside. It's not just kind of blizzard
yeah.
all the time.
That's one of the secrets here that people have figured out that there's 300 some days of sunshine. So even if it snows, even if it's cold, yeah, that snow is intense because we're so high in elevation, so it melts quickly.
For sure, for sure.
Hmm.
Okay, so what is one thing that movies never get right? Doesn't have to be about therapy. It can be about.
Oh, um, what it takes to survive in long-term monogamy.
Oh, interesting. Okay, can you tell me more?
Romantic comedies, Disney movies, full of shit. Full of creating so much disillusion
Yeah,
in what is required in relationships. They spin a story that once you've met your soulmate, the communication's going to be there, the passion's going to be there, exchange of emotions, like it's going to be so easy. And I think it does a real disservice to people. Um, it's propaganda. I wish that there was more about, everybody is going to have their stuff. The dynamic is going to speak to your wounds. It's about whether two people have enough self awareness and motivation to recognize their wounds, to learn the communication skills, the self awareness to work work on them with you, and to evolve together, and how much effort it takes to still be intriguing, interesting, mysterious, flirty, passionate with each other many years in. That doesn't just work itself, it actually takes conscious thought and effort.
For sure.
And I wish more people knew that. I wish there was more honest portrayals of that.
For sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
That definitely resonates. I've gotten quite a few clients over the years who, are like, well, like it's not like the movies, so it must not be right kind of idea. And it's like,
Mhm.
nope, that's not
Yeah, I didn't mention this, but something that is maybe not as common that I offer for couples is conscious uncoupling. So just the same amount of couples I work with to stay together and deepen their relationship, deepen their communication. I actually work with a number of couples to confront and face, like, what does it mean for us to separate amicably, still with care and respect and love, which takes a certain amount of ego stability and awareness.
sure. Yeah.
Hmm.
I love knowing that niche. That's good actually for me to know too.
Yeah. Hmm.
Appreciate it. Okay, what's the best way to relax?
For me personally,
Yeah, for you personally. What would you?
yeah, I'm a long time yoga practitioner, so yoga always helps me relax as part of my morning routine. I've been doing it since I was in my 20s. So that's always like brushing my teeth for me. Um, but breathing and regulating with an animal and connecting with animals for me has just always been a thing. Like I have one kitty cat now, and yeah, just being able to be present with her and breathe with her and have her little sweet body on my lap is just like the sweetest experience I could have. That's always one of my go-tos. Pure relaxation. Hmm.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I agree. Okay, what would be a dream trip location for you?
Travel is one of my favorite things. Um, I typically try to go on one beautiful trip a year. Sometimes if it's really expensive and takes time, it'll be every other year. I was in Japan last fall. Um, right now, top of my list are places like um, Spain, um, Copenhagen, um, somewhere in Africa. I can't quite decide. I was considering the Galapagos Islands, and then I decided I actually don't love being on boats, and that seems to be required to go there.
It's been on my list
So,
forever, and I avoid it for that exact reason. So,
right. There's the island of Cyprus that I have my eyes on because there's so many cats there, which I love, but it feels a little bit unsafe to go there. I mean, honestly, there's pretty much no place that I would not go unless it feels like there's safety reasons why nobody should go there right now. But I'm way more interested in traveling internationally than in the USA. I kind of always have been, but there's plenty of places I probably still need to see in the United States. So there's some islands off the coast of Maine that are on my list that might happen this year.
nice, nice,
Hmm.
good, more summertime,
Right.
perhaps.
Hmm. Exactly. Hmm.
Okay, advice would you give to your younger self if you could kind of go back in time? Would there be words of wisdom you'd share?
Hmm. Depends what age. Probably somewhere around between 5 and 7, which is kind of my favorite age in kids. Um, Something like none of this ultimately matters. None of this ultimately matters. It's not about getting it right or wrong. It's just it's about experiencing the journey just every day, being the connection of love and kindness to others. And like, don't get all twisted up about right or wrong. Was it too much? Was it too little? Like, just embrace it all. It's about the journey. Hmm.
Okay, out of the four seasons, what is your favorite?
Fall, easily. Autumn,
Why
always has
fall?
been. Yeah. Um, I love the clothes. I love the food. I love this crispness in the air. I love the colors, that mix of like oranges and fuchsias and reds, auburns, like, yeah, warm butternut squash. Yeah, the smells, yeah, definitely autumn. Turtlenecks. It's not too cold, but just cold enough. Layers
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. And in Colorado, you get a little bit more change of seasons, which I think is always kind
For
of
sure.
very fall, right? Is that
Hmm.
really feel
Hmm.
it happening.
Yeah.
Okay, what would be the worst superhero power to have?
The worst one?
The worst one.
Ugh. Um, Honestly, the worst one might be being able to hear other people's thoughts.
Yeah,
You would think that might be an amazing one, but actually, if you could hear everybody's thoughts, oh my God, like you would probably go crazy. It would be way too much. Like if we think we're overstimulated now, if 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 that was your superpower and you couldn't turn it on and off, I think that would be miserable.
yeah.
Yeah, being able to hear everybody's thoughts around you would be absolute pure chaos. Yeah.
In good company. I'd say about 90% of the people I've spoken to in this series have said the
Oh
same.
yeah?
Clinicians.
Yeah.
I think we're onto something there. There's
Right. And we're all clinicians, and it's like, well, it's ironic because I'm really pretty highly intuitive, but it's kind of a choice how much I feel into and allow that. Yeah.
for sure. For
Hmm.
sure. Yeah. Again, good
Hmm.
you're in good company with that one.
Yeah.
Okay, two more questions. What is an animal that kind of resonates for you that you gravitate towards? You mentioned your kitty cat, but is there an animal that
Yeah.
kind of resonate?
Large cats. I mean, it sounds kind of cliche, but yeah, lions, male lions,
Mm-hmm.
and typically like black panthers or jaguars. I don't know. There's something about their loyalty, their stateliness, their mystery, their intrigue, but also their strength and grace. There's a fierceness to them, but it's fierce for things like justice and things that matter. But there's also just like a kindness. I don't know, there's so many adjectives I could use, but yeah, even since I was a little girl, yeah, like large cats.
Yeah. We used to do this with our cat. He passed away last year, but
Oh,
we
I'm
used to,
sorry.
I think he was, but it's been hard. But
Mhm.
we used to put big cats on the TV, because he would hear the sound and he would just be like, "Oh, what's that?" It was like this, like primal kind of understanding that there was like
Yeah,
other animals, not so much, but big cats.
yeah. If you've never heard actual grown lions, male lions roar, there's like nothing like that sound on earth. It reverberates through your entire being. It's pretty awesome. Hmm.
Okay, so final question. When you look back at your life, what do you hope to be able to say?
Mm, that I lived it authentically and with integrity. Hmm. Yeah, those things authentically and with integrity to my best ability. Yeah, I want to try not to leave anything on the table,
Mm-hmm.
and make choices that feel most aligned with me, no matter what anybody says about it.
Hmm.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, thank
Mhm.
you, Vanessa. You are officially seen. So,
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
yeah, my pleasure. Thanks again. And for anybody watching, I will put Vanessa's information in the notes of this so that you can reach out if you'd like to chat some more with Vanessa. And
I'd be happy to.
great. Thanks again, Vanessa. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much.